here today to talk about AI and blockchain, the new technologies of the internet. I think it's a very hot topic, but we're hoping to dig into some spicy questions with our panelists. Apologies in advance, we might even get into a debate. But we actually had an amazing introduction there, but I'd love to just kick off with a little bit of introduction so you can maybe just give us a little bit more info on the projects that you're working on. So Yuhu, would you like to give us maybe like a 1 to 2 minute, just who you are and what you're working on now?
Kaito is building an AI-powered search engine. Today, we cannot search anything on the blockchain directly. And also at the same time, there's so many discussions and information that is stored off-chain, but also related to blockchain developments, the things that are happening on the governance forum, Twitter, all this kind of stuff are very relevant to the Web3 communities. But today, information is so siloed and fragmented. So building a search engine that can index information on the blockchain, around the blockchain, and providing people with a transformative experience in terms of querying, indexing, accessing information around the blockchain.
Excellent. Search for blockchain. We definitely need that. Alex, how about you? What's your focus right now?
Yeah, I'm the VC in the room. So my name is Alex. I've been a crypto VC focused on early stage infrastructure for about a decade. Before crypto, I did a lot of general like developer tooling, infrastructure software. We've seeded 5 or 6 AI unicorns, my partners and I, and then maybe 100 plus blockchain companies and protocols. A lot of L1s, a lot of the big L2s and roll-ups, and DeFi protocols. So we try to do a little bit of both, although more crypto lately.
Yeah, so we have a project called Babylon, and Babylon is about Bitcoin. So I should tell you a bit about my history of crypto. So 5 years ago, I got into crypto by reading Nakamoto's white paper. I got really hooked once I read it. I was doing research in AI actually, and then I abandoned AI, went straight into crypto. Oh, this panel is about AI, okay. So I went straight to crypto, spent 5 years. We built a research group at Stanford doing consensus protocol research, and always want to get back to Bitcoin, like the biggest asset in the whole crypto system. But with very limited use case. It's kind of like an OG chain where old is the big old, like old. So we always want to find some innovative new use case for Bitcoin. And after working on this for multiple years, we finally found it a few months ago. It is a very strange use case. It is to convert the 500 billion worth of Bitcoin into a staking asset that can be used for the entire crypto ecosystem. I'm happy to elaborate more on that later.
We work on, I think, 3 dimensions. First is exchange business, right? So we have Huobi, Poloniex is exchange business. And we also have protocol business, is more like public blockchain, cross-chain solution, and the decentralized file transfer protocol. So it's more like Tron, BTTC, and BitTorrent, right? And also we focus on stablecoin transaction. So this is also very important infrastructure for our industry. So that's why we work on USDT on Tron, and also TUSD, USDD, USDJ, USDC on Tron, all types of different stablecoin. And combine these 3 dimensions together, we have DeFi, Justland, Sound.io, and also basically NFT GameFi. So utilize the stablecoin, the assets on the platform.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Look, before we dive straight into the AI conversation, I know all of us here are definitely very focused on crypto, but I think one of the most contentious topics is actually defining Web3. And I thought it would be helpful just to give a little bit of context setting before we get into the AI components. So, I'd love to hear from each of you. How do you actually define Web3? And maybe within the context of the summit today as well, how do you actually think these technologies are going to empower people? So, Yuhu, do you want to start?
Yeah, maybe I'll just give my 2 cents. I think, to me, Web3 is a new era of internet, and is substantially leveraging the blockchain technology. At the same time, its ethos is fairness, decentralization, and open. And is that in this new internet of this new era of internet, users ultimately have much more control versus a centralized entity.
Got it. Alex, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I think, we came from Web 2 investing as well. At the end of the day, there are certain applications of software that should be centralized and very fast and not as secure. And then there's Web 3 applications, decentralized applications that through decentralization are censorship resistant and composable and extremely secure. And really all the words you use to describe Bitcoin, they can be used for Ethereum and decentralized applications on top. And so it's just a question of do you want to use Web 2 infrastructure or do you want to use Web 3 infrastructure to build your application? And AI so far has been largely built on Web 2 infrastructure and in a Web 2 way, but we're seeing the convergence just in the last few months with the rise of generative AI, which is quite exciting. Right?
It's interesting too, yeah. I think there's a little bit of a debate there whether we actually include AI in Web 3, but I think we will for the discussion today.
Sure.
David, would you add anything to that definition?
Yeah, so in my mind, Web 3, 2 words, decentralized coordination. To be able to coordinate many, many different disparate parties in a decentralized way, incentivized, is really what the heart of AI. And to be able to design systems to achieve that objective with a low cost is kind of a huge challenge for an infrastructure person like me. And that's what I'm dedicated on working.
Got it. Okay, we've got a good working definition. Anything to add?
Yes, I believe Web3 is metaverse world parallel to the real world, but with its own financial infrastructure application. I think we are still far away from the Web3 world since I think the whole industry is still busy on building the infrastructure first, right? So we need to get exchange, stablecoin, DeFi, GameFi, all the application ready to start to deliver on application level, right? So recently we have seen some interesting progress such as Friendtech, right? So recently super popular, but we have seen those kind of the application emerge before, but without the infrastructure support, lots of them died out after trending in Twitter. So hopefully, I think in the future, with the strong infrastructure support, we can see more and more application start to emerging and be prosper in a long term.
I'd love to hear from you. How do you think blockchains and AI can coexist? And specifically, how can AI actually help blockchain protocols? Does blockchain even need AI? What are your thoughts on this?
When first AI comes through into the industry, I think people only interested in first, rush into NVIDIA stocks and making profits. Yeah. And then second, in the blockchain, just launch whatever the projects name AI and list it on exchange. In those stage, even Huobi, Bitget release some of the projects like that, AI Doge, and even you heard the name, it's gonna list on exchange because it's AI and Doge, right? Yeah. Right. And I think that's the first stage, right? So we see, and we literally have token name Open AI, ready for you to trade, but there's nothing behind the token. So I think that's the first stage. But the second stage, we start to see some serious use case. Recently, we see the Telegram bots powered by the AI trading mechanism. So basically, I think is you basically just give the secret key to the Telegram bots, and Telegram bots is decided by some trading strategy, right? So which whether it's MEV attack or any kind of the different trading strategy powered by AI. So you can actually trading by profits, right? We see, for example, like Unibots, and lots of like bots these days. I think yesterday is like a banana or something launching on the platform. So lots of people using AI as trading tools help them to making profits on their Uniswap trading, right? So I think this is probably the second stage, right? So we start to see some of the use case combining AI blockchain, but I think this is still very early.
Yeah.
In the future, we probably see more real use case powering by AI plus blockchain, but we will continue monitor on that.
That was a great overview. I want to throw to you, Yehu. Like, how are you seeing this? How can blockchain be assisted by AI?
I think I just wanted to echo what Justin said.
Yeah.
In particular, in terms of you mentioned about trading bot, all these kind of new applications that are starting to leverage some of the AI capabilities. I do think it is actually relevant to all the protocols and all the applications that people are building at the moment, because AI is is essentially middleware that everyone can leverage. Right? So
It's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, to some extent there is similarity in between AI and blockchain in a way that we're both middleware. But to your point, there's also intersection. So beyond maybe just leveraging AI to improve user experience, enhancing user experience, and making things that previously not possible, I also think that there are certain areas that are having tremendous synergies, right? So decentralized compute is one, ZK/ML is one as well. These things are maybe more far out, but I do think there's a tremendous opportunity in terms of solving the bottlenecks of computing, right? Solving preserving the privacy of machine learning models, right? These are hugely relevant topics that currently everyone's going through their mind.
Excellent, thank you. Alex, I want to throw to you next, because you raised $200 million to invest in blockchain startups, and I've got here your thesis is brilliant. It's developing the scaffolding for a digital rights system for the whole internet with a focus on emerging markets. And I note that you've invested in all sorts of Web3 projects like DeFi, metaverse, gaming. So how are you seeing this? Because I know AI is starting to creep its way into your portfolio now too. How is AI supporting your thesis?
Sure, yeah. I think I agree with the others that AI is sort of this middleware toolkit. And in the beginning, what blockchain is all about, going back to the Bitcoin era, is like trusted compute for certain very high trust applications. Like money, you want a very trustworthy, secure database, right, to trade your money on and hold your money. And then you have, you can do all other sorts of computation when you have smart contract platforms. And then you have like privacy, right? That's sort of this primitive that you can add. You could have private secure applications. And now you can have sort of AI-powered secure applications. And the question that VCs always ask is why now? Like what has happened in the last year or two from a tech or macro perspective that makes these new use cases or like synergies and cross-pollination possible? And it's really two things. On the one hand, blockchains have gotten a lot more efficient and scalable. And then on the other hand, AI has been around for like 20, 30 years, yeah. Right? But in the last year or two, it had this massive transformation with generative AI, right? Like these large language models pioneered by OpenAI, and now there's open source versions of them. And so these become useful tools on the one hand that you can incorporate into your blockchain protocols, and you could have this sort of financial layer to like what AI software does. And then the other thing that I think is also very interesting, which maybe we could get to later, is the doomsday scenario to AI. AI, like a world of just AI, and no blockchain, can be very dystopian and scary. You have these AI models that are completely black boxes, like they're very opaque. You don't know what goes into them. You have no way to, you could have all this copyrighted data, and there's no way to give attribution, and you have millions of artists getting ripped off to create DALL-E images and things like that. And then it goes even further from that of what do these models actually do, and do they get turn bad? And crypto is great because crypto is sort of It's like the sun, it shines transparency, and you can do auditability of what's going on in these models, and you can do identity, and you can try to figure out what's real and what's not real in this sort of like very dystopian, scary post-AI world where you can like fake videos of yourself, and it's hard to figure out what your identity is, who's human and who's not on chain, or in the world. And so those are the two really areas. One is like how do you improve like decentralized applications with AI, and then how do you use sort of interesting cryptographic primitives to push back and maybe restrain some of the worst impulses and outcomes of Web 2-based AI applications.
David, just one more use case. I know you're very much focused on blockchain security. So from your perspective, how is that a use case for AI and blockchain?
Yeah, but before I go there, let's follow on Alex's point, which I think is an interesting point, which is I think one thing about AI is it's very centralized right now because it requires a huge amount of data, a huge amount of compute. So it's naturally centralized into a big organization, and that causes some lack of transparency. So I think the challenge is definitely how to decentralize that, but while having the efficiency needed to achieve that goal. I think from an infrastructure point of view, that's a really big challenge. Yeah, so I forgot your question already. So the challenge of answering a question is like you answer another question.
No, I think it's valid.
I was just trying to follow up on what Alex said.
Yeah, we're in the infrastructure building phase of all this for sure. Yeah, we probably need like 1,000 to 5,000x scalability improvements, right? And like ZKML, things like that is what it seems. You would know better than I, you're the researcher, but.
Yeah, so I think, as you mentioned, right, one important thing is to develop the crypto primitive to essentially make sure that the compute is verifiable and secure, and that things are under control. So yeah, and that ties into security, which is my specialty. Security is really about mechanisms to enforce or to incentivize good behavior, and I think that's super important in the context of AI plus blockchain.
Got it. Okay, so lots of use cases there, and I think as Justin said, I think this is still really early days, so we're only going to see that develop more. But let's dig deeper on something that Alex mentioned, because I think you opened up a can of worms there that everyone wants to talk about. So I think it was a Peter Thiel quote actually about this sort of push-pull between the sort of hyper-centralization of AI and then crypto as a decentralizing force. So I'd love to hear what you think about that. Does that make these two technologies completely incompatible, or does it make them highly complementary? Is it the same in every situation, or does it differ? What do you think about that? Justin, you're nodding. Do you want to tackle that one?
Yes, sure. So I think there is a very interesting connection between NVIDIA and the crypto, right? So I think the back to 2016, 2017, because Ethereum protocol basically is mainly the one who is powering, actually incubating AI in the first place. NVIDIA developed lots of the chips. It's not because of people use it to play computer games. It's because they just use those chips to mining AI, right? But after, of course, I think 5 years, Ethereum completely migrate to POS mechanism, so no need chips anymore. But we see like OpenAI or continue to boost NVIDIA stock price and their business, right? So that's why I believe POW is always kind of like a foundation similar to AI, because it's also very concentrated on the chips, mining power. So I think in the philosophy level, it's similar to what AI is doing today. Basically, mining powers and the chips and also the data decided on the progress of the AI. So that's why I think even recently there's also an example, Huawei, because they are getting banned from chips in US, but they managed to get out a new product. Basically, with the help of blockchain as well, because the manufacturer, they are ordering chips is basically building all their chips infrastructure on top of Bitcoin mining. So that's how they can produce the chips in the first place. So that's why in the end, I believe there will be big overlaps between crypto mining companies and also AI chips companies. So far, I think this is the biggest connection here.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to add to that in terms of this centralization versus decentralization? You know, do you see perhaps blockchain balancing some of AI's centralizing powers?
Maybe I just chime in on that. I think it's before maybe we jump into kind of the intersection of AI and blockchain in this sort of centralization versus decentralization debate. I think there are different elements of the centralization of AI. To some extent, I remember just a couple of days ago, I was watching a video from Andrew Ng, who's obviously the co-founder of Google Brain, and he was saying that in the last era, the two major use cases of AI was really search and recommendation. But then there's a significant long tail of a lot of industries that cannot afford hiring machine learning engineers and basically incorporating AI into their workflow. So things like, oh, if I want to take a picture of the pizza, then I let AI to detect whether this is good quality or not, things like that, right? So quality control, you know, a lot of like mini things that people can think of but can leverage AI. So to that extent, AI is substantially democratized, right? So nowadays, AI is in the hands of people. Right? I can use AI, people can write thousands of articles in 10 seconds, all the things like that. But at the same time, I think Justin also mentioned this, you also mentioned this as well, AI is very centralized in a way that the training of the model is very centralized.
Yep.
I do think that centralization for the training of the model is a good thing. You know, people may disagree, but I do think it's a good thing because it's very dangerous. Once that's, you know, we already have a lot of open source large language model in the world, but these things are very dangerous, right? Because it's almost like, the way I think about it is almost like potentially, we're not there yet, but potentially this is giving nuclear power to every single citizen in the world. And if there's one person that wants to do bad thing, then, you know, this can trigger a very bad effect. So I do think that, you know, this kind of centralization element of AI, and I think it's probably good to stay on that front. But where blockchain can come into this equation is, I think, in Web3, like what we discussed initially, in this era of new internet, people are giving control back to the users. Right? People, in an ideal world, we all have control of our own data. So if other people want to train a model that we don't think is ethical, we can agree not to give the data. Then the training of the model can be restricted, and to some extent, everyone in this world can participate in this sort of either be limiting or protecting in terms of where we're headed in terms of humanity.
Yeah, from a research point of view, right? So I'm I guess, a researcher here. So from a research point of view, this proof that I think you who mentioned about sort of having individuals being able to contribute the data into training a model, I think it's a very interesting research problem, which is, okay, how do you prove that you have actually contributed? Maybe you're spamming the system. So how do you prove that you're actually positively contributing to improving this model?
Or that it's quality data
so that's
going into the training model.
That's the incentive part. I think that's a really interesting problem. I don't think there's a very good solution yet. But.
Absolutely. All right, so we've only got about 10 minutes left, but I wanted to share with you, I just saw the other day this amazing bullish case for the intersection of AI and blockchain. It was Kathy Wood of ARK Invest. And she was talking about, I'll just read you exactly what she said. So, most of the asset management world doesn't understand how powerful the convergence will be between and among the technologies that are evolving today. So new technologies, they start out slowly, they gain momentum, and they pick up at this steep part of the S-curve, if you're familiar with that idea. So she was sort of suggesting that Bitcoin and AI are like feeding S-curves on S-curves, And she believes that this is going to result in this parabolic price movement for Bitcoin. Now, I know that we're all pro-crypto, so I'm sure you would all love to agree with Kathy. My question would be, what are the challenges that you foresee for Bitcoin or crypto in general and AI that are actually going to prevent Kathy's vision from coming true? What are the challenges holding us back? Justin?
Yes, I think we have two challenges. First, of course, is regulation.
Yeah.
So I think both like AI and crypto is very new technology. I think most of the regulators have no idea what's that really be.
Yeah.
So that's why there is lots of like debating independently happen in these two industries, right? Crypto itself has lots of like regulators has lots of regulation concern among AML, like KYC. I deal this with regulators every day, and already feel hard to convince them to how crypto can benefit the society. And right now we have another burden, right? Like AI also cause lots of concern of regulators, concern about like personal data and also how we can if we put all the data into the AI models, like what they're gonna generate in the first place, right? So lots of people try to pull lots of bad stuff into OpenAI and see how it, what kind of things it's gonna generate from OpenAI. Probably you also need to put censorship, into the AI. It's already happened in China, which I think also US, because you can't accept the situation, probably like bad guys can ask like AI bots to help them to create something bad, right? So that's also is a big problem for the industry. And the combining, AI with blockchain, I think it will be powerful. For example, today you can have computer to help you to manage the secret key and deploy the capital. But also, I think might create problem. For example, AI bots can use funds, interact with Cardano Cash, probably hiding like the source of funds and putting into exchange, like that. So I think that's the first challenge is regulation, and also I feel like infrastructure support is still very poor, right? For example, today take like WorldCoin as an example, right? I think WorldCoin right now is still in the stage of like Sam's coin, right? People invest into WorldCoins only because it's created by Sam. It still needs to develop like use case, like the real use case for WorldCoin to provide like support for the fundamental narrative. So that's why I think the infrastructure support use case is the second challenge of it.
Got it. David, what would you add to that in terms of obstacles ahead?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about Kathy Wood's line. What does that mean, really, right? You see, it's kind of interesting because you asked what is the barrier of achieving that goal, but we don't really know what she actually meant by combining Bitcoin and AI. Scarcity of AI, a scarcity of Bitcoin, and infinity of AI.
That's right, yeah, she described it, the infinity of AI and the scarcity of Bitcoin together.
Yeah, so from a security point of view, I'll try to give an interpretation of what that means.
Yeah, please.
Is perhaps you can think of scarcity of Bitcoin makes the high value asset, capital. And capital is important in ensuring security because the blockchain ecosystem is about proof of stake. So that's the security source. And AI needs security to keep it in check. So that is perhaps one way of unifying the two together. So lots of barrier because each part is kind of fully developed infrastructure-wise. So yeah, lots of infrastructure challenge to achieve
So you think
that
she's right?
goal.
You're on board with Kathy?
Sorry?
You're on board with Kathy? You think she's onto something?
Yes.
Okay. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, these are two of the most exciting, like, technological trends in software, right? They really just, AI leads to more digitization, crypto leads to more digitization, more things you could do with digital assets and so forth. And so they compound and they synergize with each other. I think the most important problem is a scalability problem. And this has always been the issue with crypto and even with AI, right? And so the question is like, well, how do you take all the security that's on, and secure computing that's on Bitcoin, that's on Ethereum, and how do you leverage that for more interesting applications or more nuanced applications and complex ones than just money? And layer 2s have done that on Ethereum pretty well. And Babylon, David's project, is doing that with Bitcoin, right? How do you take all the security on Bitcoin and leverage it for like other protocols and other applications, whether it's AI or not. But yeah, we probably need a whole lot more scalable blockchains and scalable ways to like add AI to blockchains before that future is totally a reality, right?
It's actually, while you guys are talking about that, I was kind of just reflecting on Kathy's words. Actually reminds me of what Arthur Hayes was talking about a couple months ago. He was saying that if in a day whereby AI took over the world, which kind of echoes not necessarily what Kathy means in terms of infinity of AI, but it could be one scenario, and Bitcoin is going to be the money that AI will use, because AI is going to be able to mine all the Bitcoins on chain, is going to transact all the stuff, it's not going to use fiat money because they can't control that. But whereas obviously blockchain AI is a natively compatible technology that AI can leverage. So I think that's just, it's not necessarily what I mean, but what I believe in, but I think is also interesting. So if you believe that AI is going to take over the world, that Bitcoin is definitely going to go parabolic.
Okay, so we've only got like 2 minutes left. I want to wrap up with a really positive idea. Maybe we can end on sort of ethics and sentiment. There's been a lot of talk about the negative potential aspects of AI. AI is going to take all the jobs. We're all going to die. The AI agents are going to kill us all. So I want to get your read from this. Maybe in 30 seconds. What's your sentiment? Are you pro AI, anti AI? Are you scared? Are you excited? Yoo-hoo, why don't you kick us off?
I'm very pro AI, but I do think AI development needs to be controlled, and blockchain is ever more relevant in this new world. Got it.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, my favorite movie is The Matrix, so of course I love AI. All these agents taking over, and it's great. I mean, look, it's a massive improvement in productivity. It accelerates all sorts of things and good in the world. But yeah, I agree. We have to, any technology that is really centralizing and really totalitarian in nature, you need to have some sort of curbs on it. You need to figure out identity. You have to figure out attribution. You have to figure out some way to create auditability of what's going on in these LLMs and things like that. And but the good news is, regulation is not a long-term solution to anything, because the technology is the solution to technology's problems, right? So that's crypto and AI kind of go hand in hand on that. So we always have to innovate our way out of the problems that create. That's like the problem of humanity. I don't know. That's the fundamental thing that we go through in modern society. So it's just a cycle of pushing back against each other, I think.
What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think every time there's a big technological innovation in the history of mankind, there's always a sentiment that, it will completely replace the need of humans, etc. So I think this repeat over and over again. I think Alex put it best. With keeping track. And you need crypto because AI.
Yeah.
And because of crypto, you need AI. So it's kind of like mutually beneficial.
Yes, I agree with that. So I'm also a big fan of the Matrix. I believe AI, crypto is the native currency for AI, right? That's the only currency AI can understand. So actually, if we have a new creation of Matrix today, I think new and the older AI in the episode, we'll use like Bitcoin to transact the value or make payment.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's all we have time for, but I guess what I'm hearing is that we're all very pro-AI with blockchain as this balancing effect. So this has been a brilliant conversation. I just wish we had 3 hours to keep talking about it. But thank you so much, guys. Please give our panel a clap. Thank you.